Welcome to the Empowered Team podcast. I'm your host, Kari Schneider, and today, you're going to get curious. It is time to get curious. Why? Because this is the superpower for influence, innovation, and intimacy with people that you really want to connect with. Curiosity is where it's at. So today, what I'm going to show you is some elements of curiosity, some of the science behind it, why it matters, and give you some real applications, 3 main ones that you can use in your own leadership. And when I say leadership, you know what I'm talking about. This podcast is all about self-mastery for leaders, but your leadership might be in a sports team. Your leadership might be in a huge company. Your leadership might be in your family. So let's see where you can use this to really foster incredible influence, incredible connection, and creativity all at the same time. It's the coolest thing. And I know that I'm not talking about the curiosity that says, why did you do that? And that's not it. So I'm going to clarify this. Now, first, I heard this term, this VUCA world that we live in. Like, what does that mean? I thought, and I dug into it a little more. And this term VUCA world, because there's so much uncertainty and leaders need as much help as they can get because there's so much pivoting going on and adapting going on, that I was like, what does this VUCA world mean? And it's that there's volatility, that's the V, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Are you kidding me? That describes exactly what we have going on, what is challenging us, what makes it hard to keep going through all of the different adaptations and pivots that we have to make as humans, as leaders. So what can help us through, keep the connection, make a difference for others? Because when I talk about influence, I'm not looking to influence somebody in order to make them do something I want them to do. I'm looking to have positive impact. I'm looking to make a difference. So use influence however you want and whatever your context is, but this is where curiosity comes in. Now, when there's so much uncertainty, when there's so much volatility and complexity, what happens is that fixed expertise or skills become a little less valuable. What happens is that adaptive intelligence is far more valuable, and adaptive intelligence has curiosity at its core. So that's what we're going to explore here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened to me. This was a couple months ago, and I do a presentation to a group for a company that I consult for. While I was doing this presentation, normally I have PowerPoints and I will go through the concept. Maybe it's hiring or firing or onboarding or difficult conversations, whatever we're working on with the leadership team in that group. And instead, I ditched the presentation, completely ditched it. And what I did instead is I sent the leadership team instructions the day before. And I said, what I want you to do is come to the leadership team with a question that is a problem or something that you want to see addressed within your department or within the company that the other leaders on the team can provide their input or their opinions on. And so we came into the meeting and the group did that. I went one by one and everybody asked their question. I might be struggling with this and I would like to know what your thoughts are on this, or how can we blank? And then people would put their input. They'd all put their input in. And it was magical, like absolutely magical. Suddenly, in the span of an hour, we had the understanding. Everybody had the understanding of each other, what was going on for them, and how they thought they might need help. And then everybody else got to put their input in and feel valuable, feel like they're contributing. And at the same time, it elevated the entire leadership team. It also created a much greater understanding of where everybody was at in the company and in their respective departments, as well as offered this innovative suggestions along the way. What worked for me in my department, maybe it will work for you with the problem that you're having. It was really, really powerful. And that's where curiosity, just asking the question, posing the question to the group, was really effective. And in this world that's becoming more and more efficient, this is where effective matters. So let's just see how we can use this curiosity. Now, first of all, I've been exploring curiosity as one of my own personal values for a very long time, and it's definitely one of my company values because my company operates on solving problems, helping elevate people, teaching self-mastery, and it requires a lot of curiosity in there. So what I've done is I've really peeled back curiosity. What's the most effective curiosity and why? What elements of curiosity? So this is what I came up with as the elements or the framework of how I want to utilize curiosity. And it's number one, compassionate curiosity. Compassionate curiosity holds space for someone else's experience or someone else's truth. And intelligent curiosity. Intelligent curiosity is asking about and seeking what really matters, not just killing time, not just showing up to be there, but showing up to do something, really getting into and being inquisitive about what truly matters. And the last one is creative curiosity. This is where our adaptive intelligence comes in. How can we figure things out? It unlocks new possibilities. So those are the three elements I've personally distinguished so that I could understand my own value and how to utilize it best. Those make a huge difference. So I wanted to share that with you so that you have that in the back of your mind as we go into why does this even matter? Why does it matter right now? Well, when it comes to the workplaces, we've got leaders, we've got teams, we've got employees, we've got all these situations. But for leaders and teams specifically, curiosity creates psychological safety. And psychological safety yields greater productivity, yields greater trust, and yields greater connection within the teams themselves. So curiosity creates this psychological safety, and it goes a long way for having highly functioning teams. Now, when you think of something like innovation, what happens with curiosity, it's innovative in nature. When you're inquisitive, when you're looking for something and trying to uncover the layers to figure out what's there, it fosters innovation. Curious leaders create cultures that encourage challenge, novelty, experimentation. This is what allows greater adaptive environments. Google has a thing called 20% curiosity time, and it led from the employees to Google Maps and to Gmail. Go figure, Google Maps and Gmail, something so incredibly established, came from fostering curiosity within the employees, within the culture, within the teams. Now let's think of relationships here. Now this can be friendships, this can be work colleagues, this can be your partner. Compassionate curiosity deepens connection in conflict. Now I can think of many, bouts of friction or conflict that my husband and I had. And with compassionate curiosity, even if it doesn't solve the conflict, what it does is it just softens. It softens everything. It allows the other person to feel like they are seeking to understand. We're looking for not just overpowering with an argument, but rather seeking to understand. Is so powerful. It might sound like, what do you wish I understood better? Think about that powerful question. What do you wish I understood better? That can change everything about the dynamic because there's a gap. But when you're trying to close the gap, then it really helps. It can soften everything and bridge the gap of not understanding the other person. So consider that when we're talking about curiosity, and especially in the context of influence, remember, I'm saying making a difference. It's not starting with persuasion, it's starting with presence. And our last podcast episode, if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. It's all about presence. Really understand what presence is, how to show up with presence, And when you couple presence with powerful questions or compassionate questions or curious questions, it ends up being an unstoppable influencer that makes a difference for a cause, for the other person, for the relationship. It makes a huge, huge difference. So here we go. Let's look at the science. That's why it matters. Let's look at the science. When we go into some of the science, curiosity in a group environment, it ends up being a leadership multiplier. So what this looks like is that when you have a group and the leader, let's say there's one leader of the group, the leader of the group just starts to tell everybody what is happening and what needs to happen. So this is the situation and this is what you need to do. That happens countless times in leadership settings. One leader, this is the situation, this is what you need to do. Now consider same leader then says this is the situation and asks, what's your position on this? What are your suggestions? And very, very interesting thing happens because then you're fostering more leadership from the group. And people will step in and step up. And even if they don't step up, if you just approach them quietly, maybe they're an introvert, what happens is that it fosters greater leadership. It fosters more leadership. So it becomes a leadership multiplier. Huge, huge thing. And that's been researched. Very cool. In Harvard studies, curious leaders increase the team voice. So now more people feel that they can speak up, especially if more questions have been asked. And that creates more creativity. Such a cool thing. So remember, we've got the compassionate curiosity, enhancing empathy and listening, the intelligent curiosity, improving focus and discernment, distinguishing, and creative curiosity, one of my favorites, sparking adaptation, innovative thinking. So now let's take a look at some application, because I imagine you're thinking, okay, I've got some ideas where I can apply this and really influence the team or my family or my partner because I'm making a difference to them. Not because I'm trying to manipulate them, but because I'm really making a difference to the connection, them feeling understood, and guiding the narrative to what's really going to matter for both parties or the group. All right, so let's look at application. I'm going to look at three main things. The first one is being really, really intentional about the questions. This is one of the easiest areas to make a mistake. If people come in with questions, but they're not a conscious question, a compassionate question about the situation, the people, the context, then it can really fall short. It can actually irritate the other side. So yes and no questions that are not sensitive to the situation. There's a lot of damage that can be done with a question that says, why did you? Why don't you? Why did this go wrong? There's a lot of potential negativity and damage that can be caused by that. That's why I distinguished curiosity. There's all kinds of questions, but there's also a lot of crappy questions out there, and we want powerful questions. Questions that evoke incredible responses that really open up the potential of human relationships and human discovery. Okay, so let's look at these intentional questions. So what I would suggest in this application is to prepare 2 open-ended questions before an interaction. This could be a meeting, it could be a department meeting, a board meeting, things like what if? Why is this occurring at this time when it hasn't occurred in the past? How might this impact blank? So prepare these open-ended questions, and the definition of an open-ended question is simply this, that it's not a yes or no question. It requires a response that is a description or a sentence, not just a yes or a no. Things like when someone's given an answer, so you've been curious, you've asked a question, they've given an answer, the way you dive deeper with this is tell me more. It deepens exploration. When we deepen exploration, then it opens up more. Now, sometimes deepening exploration is uncomfortable and people don't like it. But usually if you're in the right context and with people who are ready and open, then that deepening exploration uncovers so many great things. So let's look further. The next one for applications is mindful listening. Now, I've done a lot of work and teaching on active listening and deep listening. Mindful listening is another form of that. I'm not going to distinguish it as something different. It is active listening. It is deep listening. It's mindful of the other person. It's mindful of the situation. But what this looks like is one of the most important things you can do in mindful listening is pause. Just pause. Ask the question and wait. You don't have to do a bunch of explaining. Let them think. It's a beautiful thing when there's space for someone to ponder. That's when the magic happens. So just pause. Let the silence land. Reduce the interruptions. We're often so busy to need our voice to be heard that we're interjecting and we're interrupting. Now, sometimes I'm interrupting in private coaching settings to interrupt a pattern. So I'm intentionally interrupting someone. I'm intentionally being kind of rude because I don't want them to continue a pattern that is just a flowing narrative to them that might be very limiting for their lives. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is allowing people to say their piece, allowing people to have the space to think before they respond, not fill everything in while they're trying to ponder and consider. I know that especially in my marriage, I was in a space where I felt so unheard that if my husband was there, I wanted to say a whole bunch of things. And yet I noticed that, I'm not like that in a coaching environment. I'm not like that in a corporate environment. Why would I be like that in that environment? This might take some introspection on your own behavior to discover, well, there hasn't been enough time together. There hasn't been enough catching up. And I feel like I'm just saying all this stuff all at once in order to get it all out. So let there be some space for the other person to absorb what's been said and what's been asked. Let the silence land, reduce the interruptions, and then reflect back more than you're responding. So what I mean by that, and I do this all the time in coaching environments, and especially if I'm doing presentations to a group and someone asks a question, not only will I repeat it for the group, but I'm also repeating it to make sure I understand the question that they're asking. So what this looks like is mirroring what they've said, but sometimes in your own words, or sometimes even saying something like, it sounds like you are saying blank, even though they may not have said blank. So you say, I heard you say blank, blank, and blank. It sounds like what's really going on there is some real concern over the product. And you've filled in something that you're reading between the lines, and you're waiting for their confirmation that not only did you hear everything that they said and repeated it and confirmed it, but then you also added your own insight and asked for confirmation. It's a really, really powerful way to communicate. And this is what supports your curiosity. It shows by reflecting, it shows by adding an insight that you're curious if you're really understanding them. So really, really powerful. So number one, preparing the open-ended questions. Number two, mindful listening. And number three, when we're listening, we want to explore as many angles as possible. So what we're doing is exploring multiple angles in this number three application. By doing that, we can do that in our own heads, but we're so limited. We have our own biases. We are trying to confirm what we already think. That's just what we do. And instead, what we want to find out is other people's perspectives. We want a contrasting viewpoint. We want to bring that into discussion. We want to embrace the paradox of inquiry and analysis. Now, what this is called when you're bringing in multiple angles and multiple viewpoints, it's called ambidextrous leadership, because leadership is often positioned as this one person in a group, and it's not that. Ambidextrous leadership is referring to other people being able to bring in their viewpoint and their opinion so that you're not tunnel visioned in what the situation is or what the solution is, but rather you have a much greater perspective. You've got a bird's eye view of what's really going on because you can see other people's vision and their angles. And that allows you to have a greater perspective instead of just where you're standing and what you can see. So that is the exploring multiple angles. Now, of course, I can't go through this topic without addressing AI and what this looks like, your curiosity really as an influencer. But where does AI come into this? Because there's plenty of times that we might be exploring things in a group, but maybe AI can help. So one of the great uses of AI is to not only have it argue the point with all kinds of different perspectives from experts in that field. Boom, mind blown. If you've never done it, please do it. Literally ask for who are the 5 top experts in this thing that we are discussing and exploring. And then you get them, and then you say, this is our issue, and this is what we're looking at, and this is why. Please have those experts argue their viewpoints on that particular topic. You will be blown away by how much you can discover just by that activity, just by that exercise. Now, right now you might be going, awesome. So curiosity as an influence, making a difference. AI is going to come in and be great. And remember, it's AI. It's not a human. So we want to make sure that, yes, AI can deliver scripts. AI can add value and perspective and more information, massive amounts of information, very, very efficiently. However, it doesn't have the humility, the vulnerability, the attention and energy that curiosity requires. So one of the ways that you can remember to include that is bring the humans that you're working with the AI and let everybody oversee and contribute to what the AI can contribute. Now, let's say everyone in the group or yourself and your family, whoever is involved, you come up with a solution. A beautiful thing you can use AI for after you've done this with humans is ask the question, what are we missing here? What am I missing? And then the humans will chime in, but let AI do the same thing because it's going to have a much greater perspective than we do. It just doesn't have the human element of presence, of the humility and sensitivity and compassion that comes in with humans. So curiosity is influence embodied just by being curious. That it's a direct main line to influence with other people because you're curious about them. People typically love that. Now, if you're asking questions that somebody doesn't want you to be asking, then they might shut you down and you're not influencing them at all or making a difference to them at all. But it's how you say it. It's what you say, not only the types of questions we said, there's some dumb questions, some crappy questions, and there's some very powerful. But it's not just what you say, but it's in what you ask, how you ask it, how you feel, and what you're seeking. That's the important part about it. That's really what matters in curiosity. Lastly, let's just do a quick reminder and example of those 3 C's in curiosity, or sorry, the 3 components, the 3 elements of curiosity. The intelligent curiosity, you might ask things like, tell me more. Or compassionate curiosity, you might ask things like, tell me more. Active listening, especially if emotions are rising. Intelligent curiosity, how about this? What's at the heart of this? What's really going on here? What's behind all this? Spot the patterns. Ask follow-up questions. Go deeper. Don't be afraid to go deeper. People can handle it. And creative curiosity. What if we did the opposite? What are the possibilities if we tried this? Really, really cool creative curiosity. So explore those. So what I'd like to add here for you to integrate this and just start practicing this now. Plan it, do it. Practice it now. Here's a little reflection, because we know we all do this. Here's the thing. Where am I leading with answers when I should lead with questions? Where am I leading with answers where really the better choice might be some real compassionate curiosity or intelligent curiosity or creative curiosity? Where am I leading with answers? Where can I lead with greater curiosity? And the next thing I'd like to challenge you with is look at your week ahead. This is a Monday. Look at what you got coming up. Is there something that's high stakes? Is there something that's an important presentation? How can you lead with your most courageous question? Lead with something that's really going to make the difference. That's what we're talking about with influence, is making a difference for a situation, for other people, for yourself. So let's keep making a difference. Where can you use courageous curiosity and implement questions that really make a difference? All right, if you know someone who can use this episode and really enhance their own leadership in life or their personal life, in their leadership, in their business, wherever, share it. Be that person who really inspires and helps other people. What I'd like to close with here is that these are powerful concepts only if you use them. So take the action, do the thing. Next time, I think we may explore what the impact is of compassionate curiosity in conflict, because sometimes that can just change everything about the situation, no matter how hard the situation is. So keep being empowered. Have a wonderful rest of your day and have an incredible week.